Hello tipsters and tricksters, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another vintage tips and tricks video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Bea. I am a vintage glamour enthusiast and musician. I make vintage beauty and style videos with a little bit of sustainability, veganism and lifestyle thrown in for good measure. So if that sounds like your jam, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when my videos come out. Today's video is something a little bit different. I have a lot of questions quite often in my DMs, particularly on Instagram and sometimes on my videos, asking me what I do to make money or how I got started as a musician or how I got into modeling or, you know, how I go about starting a career as a YouTuber, etc. So I thought today I would discuss how I make my money as a freelancer because it does go beyond the YouTube space, and in reality I've only really been doing YouTube since I moved to Paris a few years back, but I have been a freelancer ever since I was 17 years old. It has represented the majority of my working life, and so I thought I would share with you all the various ways that you can make money as a freelancer and sole trader.
What have you got if you haven't got love?
I have a wine with me today. That is definitely one of the benefits of working for yourself, is that if you feel like having a wine while you work, you can. So cheers. Maybe this can be a new series called Wine Chats. Let me know what you think of that. Should I make a series where I have chats like this about various topics that aren't necessarily specifically related to vintage and I call it Wine Chats? I'm down for that. It means I get to drink more wine, right? So I started my first freelancer business when I was 17 and I was at music school, and I got asked by my music lecturer to join his band and start working as a musician, which I really wasn't expecting because it was like the third week of music school. I was fresh out of high school and I thought I would have to work like years before anyone would actually want to have me as the singer for their professional band. So it was a huge honor, but I felt so out of my depth. And I was really lucky because my music lecturer, because he was a seasoned professional and also an educator, was really proactive about teaching me the business side of music, and he always organized all of our contracts and everything and showed them to me and explained them to me before we did gigs. But it still meant that when I went out on my own, although I had some idea, I did find like the legal process a bit intimidating. Over the years, I have learned how to navigate that kind of business and legal side of the freelance profession, which leads me into today's sponsor, which is I thought this was a really great sponsor for this particular video because as a freelancer, it is so important to protect the integrity of your work. So often people end up being taken advantage of because they don't know their rights. Writing down your contracts means that you're protecting yourself and you're letting people know that you mean business. Literally. eGree's aim is to show that contracts can be a normal part of life. So eGree provides accessible, quick and safe contracts for your needs. They have templates already set out for different areas depending on what you want the contract for. I of course shared today with you guys the freelancer contract because that's the most relevant to me. You can pop in your various stipulations so that the contract is really clear and you have control over what it is that you're asking of the client and what they are agreeing to you doing as well and what they're paying for. eGree offers you 3 free contracts when you sign up, but if you use my code B10, you can get 10 free contracts, which is a really great deal. After that, you have monthly and yearly subscription options. The app is available on the Apple Store and on the Play Store, so you can use it no matter what type of phone you have. You can of course sign on the app with your stylus or with your finger so that it is your real signature, and easily send it to the other party so that they can sign too. Of course, keeps a record of everything as well, so it's all in the one place, making it really easy for you to keep track of your contracts and of course for your own records for your business. So a big thank you to eGree for sponsoring this video. Let's keep all of our work safe and make sure we get paid for that hard work we do as freelancers. I wasn't recording, so I'm really hoping I remember what I said, but what I was basically saying is that as a musician, there are many different ways that you can make music and make money from making music, whether that be that you record in a studio and produce a CD, or you record at home with your own software and you release your music onto streaming sites like Apple Music and Spotify, or whether, like me, you perform live. I, from the age of 17 through to 21, and after that, but specifically this time in my life, I was working largely doing corporate and private events. Also for things like a lot of PR companies will have special events for various various things, even like conferences and stuff, and they will book musical entertainment for like the after parties in the evening after people have been at the conference all day. These tend to be really, really well paid gigs because obviously if they have the budget to throw a massive party for their staff and their guests, they have the budget to pay for entertainment as well. You can also make quite a lot of money doing weddings and birthday parties like 60th and 50th and stuff like that. The older age groups tend to obviously have more of the cash unless, you know, someone's turning 21 and they have parents who can really afford to splash out. Yeah, 50th and 60th birthdays were like my bread and butter when I was younger. Corporate and private gigs tend to be really good too because the pressure is off. People are busy focusing on something else, whether it's a wedding or a party or they're eating or, you know, they're doing speeches or whatever. So you're kind of like background music and people forget that you're even there. Like they're enjoying the music, but they forget it's a real band. So often people come up to me at corporate events and they're like, oh my gosh, you're a real person. Like I thought that you were just backing music. Nice compliment to tell me that I sound good enough that I could be a recording. Thank you. Even though you're probably drunk. But also it just means that if you want to try out new material that you perhaps haven't had a lot of time to rehearse, or you're working with new musicians and you guys, you know, don't really know everything kind of really super solidly, you can mix in some of that more rocky content into your sets and people aren't really going to notice. You also don't have to do a whole lot of banter in between every song that's like pre-written and really on point and on theme. Just play your music and then in between your sets have a break for like 15-20 minutes and have a drink and something to eat. That's the other thing, is they tend to feed you and give you drinks. If I work a wedding, they'll usually just put us in the head count for whatever the guests are eating, which is amazing. And also a lot of the time I have to say no to alcohol. I might have a wine or something during the last set, or maybe a cocktail at the end of the night. But a lot of the time people try and get me to drink from like the get-go all the way through the gig. And I just like, this girl cannot sing in tune if she's had too many drinks. Like, you've paid me, I'm gonna stay sober, get my singing done, and then I'll have a drink at the end to celebrate. But it is a real bonus of the job. So you're getting paid well, you're getting fed, and it's usually fun, particularly corporate events, because they tend to be prepared by party planners. So there's like amazing decor. Sometimes I get sent home with like bunches of flowers that were part of the decorations on the tables or the entrance hall. Sometimes they're costumes and people come in the most amazing outfits. There's like photo booths, and I've been to ones where there's like fairy floss setups, and like some of them are really, really spiffy and cool. So working corporate events and private events can be really, really fun. The other way, of course, to make money is to do ticketed shows, whether that be that you work at a venue who pays you a flat rate and then they ticket out the event, or they take the earnings from the bar, or whether you ticket out the event and they take a cut of your tickets. It's a little bit riskier to do the one where you ticket it and you give them a cut, because obviously if you don't sell the tickets, you can end up paying the venue, but you don't make any money. And sometimes you have to pay out of your pocket if you really didn't do a good job of promoting your show. But that said, ticketed events can make a lot of money if you have a venue with plenty of seats and you know how to market yourself, or you have a lot of friends who will come to your show. Like my mum is amazing at bringing people to my show. I swear, when I did the Adelaide Fringe Festival, she filled like all 3 of my shows, and it was like 120 seats, I think. 50% of that audience was people my mum had talked into coming to the show. So yeah, she needs to be my PR manager, I think. So that's music. I won't blather on too much more. I feel like I've talked a lot about that topic. So if you guys want me to delve more into my music career and how I make money from that, let me know in the comments and I can make more dedicated videos going into more details about anything specific you want to know about. Once I started working on my YouTube and my Instagram and things started to grow, I started making money not initially from the platforms themselves, because it takes quite a long time to get to a level where you're making any kind of decent money, and it's not just like $20 a month or whatever. You have to have a decent following. And even now I have, you know, I'm still a micro influencer, but I have a, you know, a semi-decent following in terms of numbers, but I still earn very, very little from ad revenue, and less because YouTube has cut it down now. I used to earn double what I do now, and in the last 18 months they've cut how much revenue you can make. So yeah, you need to find other ways of making money. And for me, the number one and earliest way that I started making money was modeling. People discovered me on Instagram and said they wanted to work with me because they liked my look. I spent a lot of time presenting different kinds of looks. I was wanting to be experimental with my fashion and what I presented to my followers. But what that meant actually is that other people saw that I could be a model that would fit into lots of different types of niches. I was also like a regular person. I have done some commercial modeling in the past, TV ads and stuff, where I'm just supposed to be a normal person as opposed to being a model, you know, like a runway model or a fashion model. So commercial model is the technically correct term. But on Instagram, I think the first person I ever did a shoot from my Instagram with was, it might have been Revival Retro. I had previously done work, I was on the website Model Mayhem, and so had done shoots before, and as part of my job as a performer, I was in a group in Australia called the Pacific Bells, and we did a lot of photo shoots for the Bells with professional photographers, so I was very used to being on set and I knew how to pose and everything, but I hadn't actually been a model for clothing until either Revival Retro or Hadley Smith booked me. They were like really close together within like a week of each other, and yeah, that was super exciting and not what I expected, because I'm pretty average height, I'm pretty average shape and size. I have quite a big hip circumference, so like I'm not really that beanpole kind of shape that's expected of being a model, so that was quite surprising. But what I found is that in this niche, in the vintage niche, they want real people of all different sizes. They will work with a variety of people because they want their models to reflect the people that shop with them. Obviously, I only represent a certain percentage of those people, but they work with other people as well. Also, it benefits these companies to work with someone who is in the niche, who is on social media, because then of course you are like personally promoting the clothing as well as being the model for them, so you're like doing two jobs, if that makes sense. It pays way less than commercial modeling, let me tell you that straight up. Like before I was ever on any social media, I had an agent when I was 19 in Australia, and I did TV adverts where I was on the TV for literally 1 second. I didn't even speak, and I got paid anywhere between 100 and 2,000 Australian dollars. Whereas when I model for vintage brands, I usually at the most make a couple of $100 for a full day of hard work. Like you are in the hair and makeup chair for a couple of hours, and then you are on set doing, 40, 50 maybe outfit changes all day long with a very short break for lunch. It's really fun. It is so worth it. The client's always so lovely, but it is hard work. It's long days and the pay is not amazing. You basically get paid what you would get paid in a normal job for a day's work, because these are small businesses. They don't have huge budgets to pay people, which is normal. And also, as a influencer model, it's not quite the same thing as being a professional model who does that as a job all day, every day. You're essentially an Instagram model, if that makes sense. If you want to get into commercial modeling, that's a whole different kettle of fish, requires an agent, and then going to negotiate working with really big brands who have lots of money to spend on models. And yes, you can make good money as a commercial model. Commercial modeling doesn't necessarily require you to be model-esque in stature and in height, etc. Commercial modeling is basically about being a normal person on camera. That's the whole point. So don't think that just because you don't fit what you see on like the runway or high fashion that you can't make money. In fact, runway models and fashion magazine models don't make very much money at all, because those are seen as privileges and opportunities. And quite often, if you see someone in a spread in Vogue, the model probably didn't get paid because she gets to tear out those pages and use them for other work. And she maybe got to work with an amazing photographer or an amazing designer. And so sometimes, a lot of the time, they don't make any money. And this is coming out of the mouths of people I know who have done this job. So that's why most runway models also do commercial work, because doing TV commercials, being in like normal magazines, like advertising a car, or, being a model for H&M or something, pays way better, unless you're like, one of the biggest names in the world. But don't be afraid to get into commercial modeling, but also don't be afraid to branch out and, offer to work with people. If you really want to model with a brand, keep an eye out, because sometimes I've gotten gigs because they've said, we are looking for a pinup model, or we're looking for a vintage model to work with. If you are this, contact us in our DMs. They don't necessarily have time to trawl every vintage account, especially now. There's like so many vintage accounts out there, whereas when I started, I was one of only a few people. So if you want to get into it, don't be afraid to go and ask for what you want, or even approach brands that are working with people and you think you can match their look, or you would be a good vibe for their clothing. Send them a message and let them know your rates. Like, just send them your marketing kit, get it all set up together with like your rates, what you can do, and examples of your other work. Send it on over. you have nothing to lose. So after I started modeling, I then got into social media management. I did this job, well, this is sort of twofold. I mean, yes, you can definitely do social media management just if you're someone who's built a following online and you have knowledge of how to build followings. But I also studied marketing at university, so I have got a degree behind me, and then the fact that I have built a following online on multiple different platforms. So I was able to go into social media consulting, which is where I look at someone's social media and I give them advice on how to build their social media following, but I don't actually take over the social media. I just tell them, you know, what hashtags they should be using, what kind of content they should be focusing on, how they can improve their photos or their layout, or whether they need to be focusing more in areas like they never post stories, so they should be posting stories, or they don't post often enough, or they'll do like a bunch of posting and then put nothing up for a month. Like, just giving them literally a written strategy on how to go about growing their social media presence. But I also do social media management. This is not something that I do a lot of because it takes a lot of time, because it's like literal hours out of every single week. But I do run the social media for one architecture company back in Australia that requires me to literally take over the social media and run it on a regular basis. So I do all the posting, I edit all the pictures, I create all of the copy for it, all of the written descriptions, etc. And I post and then answer comments, etc. So that's social media management. Definitely something that you can do. Just make sure that you know that it's not just about posting pictures, because there is a really big difference between what I do as an influencer, because it is much easier for me to grow a following as an influencer in a niche, particularly in the fashion and beauty niche. People follow me for me, whereas when you're trying to, obviously I give like advice and stuff, but in the end they're kind of following a personality. Whereas if you're a business, you're trying to get people to follow the business to provide a service, and getting people to follow a company, even if they want to just work with them, is quite difficult. So you're not going to build a following in the same way. Like, you might get somebody to book you for your service, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to follow your Instagram account. You know what I mean? It's about focusing on social media as a way of bringing in clients, which is very different to building social media to create a following to then monetize. So keep that in mind if you want to go into social media consulting or social media management. One of the branches that came out of modeling that specifically came out of 2020 was that people couldn't book me to model on location on shoots. So they would send me a whole bunch of clothing. I would shoot it all specifically for use on their website. So I would do like, you know, a portrait shot, a full body shot, and then close-ups of, you know, button detail or patterns, etc., or sleeve detail, which is very different to making a pretty shot for Instagram for my feed or for their feed. So e-commerce shoot is a different style. It tends to be a lot more work because you need specific lighting and a really good quality DSLR camera so that people can really see the detail of what the clothing is, because they're paying you to wear the clothing, but the focus isn't on you or your setting or whatever. It's literally the piece of clothing, and you need to be good at editing and stuff. So I didn't do this until I had spent quite a lot of time honing my craft through Instagram, until I had a good camera, until I really knew how to use Lightroom properly and edit pictures so that I was confident to send them back to the client and they could just immediately put them on their website. But that's a really good way to make an extra bit of cash if you really enjoy photography. Just keep in mind that they are paying you to do makeup and hair, to model, to shoot. So you're the photographer and you're the editor, and then they're buying the rights for the images as well. So make sure you're charging more for e-commerce than you would if you were just posting on your Instagram feed. So if they post a picture of you that you shot and put on your Instagram on their Instagram and they're tagging you, you can get followers from their Instagram, right? But if they don't use it on Instagram and they just use it on their website, they're not naming you, you're not gaining followers from it, your job is finished. So you're not getting any more benefit from that, in which case they need to pay you more to buy the rights of the picture because they own that image and can use it however they want now. And of course, I also make money from sponsored content on YouTube, like today's sponsor, Egree. So the way that I do that is I offer a little segment in my videos. It's called an integration, where I talk about their product for like 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on what they want. And I put it in a video that's relevant to the topic. Whenever I do YouTube sponsorships and integrations, I want it to be something that I genuinely think is useful to you guys and that I would really use. I just think, you know, you follow YouTubers, because you follow the person and you trust them and you listen to what they're saying. And I think it's important to not take advantage of that just for the purposes of money. I mean, I know some people do, especially like bigger YouTubers who are going to get millions of dollars from a deal, but I want whatever I share on my channel to be relevant to the video that it's in, but also relevant to my audience and something that I genuinely think is a good product. So that can be quite hard because it means saying no to things sometimes that are well paid. Like I would never ever work with a high street fashion brand. I have been asked to work with a couple of high street brands who I won't name because I don't want to give them free advertising, but big names that sell a lot of stuff online and on the high street that were paying quite a lot of money. And I'm just like, no, I believe in buying from small businesses. I believe in sustainability and businesses taking action towards being less impactful in the environment. So I can't just turn around and be like, oh, I said that, but now I'm getting paid like $2,000 from a high street brand. So, and obviously small businesses and sustainable companies tend to have a much, much, much smaller budget for integrations. So that's just a choice that you have to make. What are you willing to do and what is your niche on your channel, and what are you willing to share with your audience and what are they going to respond to? Because it's all very well to be paid, but then if your following stops following you because they don't like the sponsorships that you do, then it wasn't really worth it. So even as a small influencer, because micro influencers, and I mean even people with like 2,000 or 3,000 followers, can actually make money from this because your audience is way more engaged. The bigger you get, the less people you can genuinely engage with. Small micro influencers can make money, so don't discount yourself just because you've got, I don't know, 5,000 followers or 10,000 followers. You don't need 100,000 followers in order to get paid sponsorship on your Instagram. It also depends on your niche as to how much money you can make. Beauty is the highest niche, so if you're able to advertise big makeup brands on your platform, then you can make good money. Same with gaming and sports. I'm in the fashion niche, which should be worth a lot of money, but I've chosen obviously like the sustainable small business and specifically vintage. So it is a much smaller niche that's harder to make money out of. But that said, if you can get a good reputation, then you'll find that a lot of people within that niche will work with you. So it's more about the frequency of the work rather than the amount you get paid per campaign, if that makes sense. I think that's it, guys. I mean, I've blathered on for a long time. I think it's like a 30 or 40 minute video. I will try and cull it down a little bit. Hopefully this was useful to some of you guys who might be freelancers already and new to it, or who are thinking about branching out into freelance work, or who maybe have been growing a social media following, particularly over the last year. A lot of people's social media has grown with TikTok and stuff very quickly, but they have no idea how to monetize. So I hope that this was helpful. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Let me know in the comments down below if you want more specific information. I'm happy to make more videos. I think we should all be sharing the information. There is plenty of space for everyone to be successful. I'm not going to tell you the secrets of like my specific stuff or things that make me unique, but in terms of like the basic business of being an influencer and a freelancer, like I'm happy to talk about it, so ask away. So I hope you liked the video, guys. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Comment down below, let me know what you thought of the video and any suggestions for future videos. Come and follow me on my Instagram. Check out my Patreon, it is linked down below. I have extra monthly content in the standard and in the music tiers, as well as our Discord chat community that you can become a part of, and curated vintage finds that I share once a week, vintage bargains that I found across the internet, so that if you guys want to buy stuff, you got the links and you can go straight to where the piece is. So do check that out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye.